Geshe Tashi Tsering is our second speaker.
Oh, yeah. Good evening to everybody. And I'm here to talk on this issue from a personal level. I'm not representing any institutions, any individuals, rather than myself. I think that should be made very clear. Also, the points that I'm going to raise are my own personal views. Now, my first point is this. This protector called Shukden has never been Lama Tsongkhapa's teachings and his institutions' protector. And that's my first point I'm going to make. And the second point I'm going to make is, since beginning of this protector, sometime 18th century, always caused problem in the community, in the society. And it's up to now, that's why we are here. And if there's time, then I will make a little bit point, a short point, who are the people behind this so-called, the international Shukden community. And I want to make that point if I had time. So Lama Tsongkhapa and his two principal disciples, Kedubje and Gyatubje, wrote 38 volumes of teachings. 38. None of these volumes of teachings mention this Shukden issue, let alone introducing how to practice it. This Shukden issue comes after 230-something years after Lama Tsongkhapa's teachings. Institutions are well established. So there's no ground to claim this Shukden is Tsongkhapa's traditions, what you call the protector. Doesn't need Tsongkhapa's tradition, doesn't need extra protector, because Tsongkhapa and his followers already introduced 3 Dharma protectors: Kalarupa, Vaishamana, Mahakala 6 arms. So that is something, my first reason why this protector is not Tsongkhapa's, never been Tsongkhapa's protector. My second point is this. From Tsongkhapa up to present time, there are 102 what we call Gandhentipa, the holder of the Tsongkhapa's throne, and we have that. None of them claimed, promote this protector as a Tsongkhapa's, traditions, institutions, protector, and that should be said very clearly. 101 Gandhentipa who lives in Paris. Some of the international Shukden community, they claim he practices. That might be his personal level, but he never ever claimed that he is Gelugpa's institutions protector. In fact, before he became Gandhentipa, sometime 2002 or 3, he went to see His Holiness, saying, from now on I will not practice. And His Holiness and himself, in front of him, more than 200,000 people in Bodh Gaya publicly announced this Longring Namgyal, who is going to be the next Gandhentipa, that's the 101. He promised me from now on not going to practice. Now if he's practicing now, because he finished his term, that's up to his personal level. I will not argue with that. Another point I want to make is many Tibetan great, not non-Gelugpa traditions practitioners, many Gelugpa traditions practitioners. Before Pabongka Rinpoche's and the Trijang Rinpoche, and during Pabongka Rinpoche's and Trijang Rinpoche's, strongly reject, strongly argue worshipping this spirit is something useful or meaningful. If you look at Ganden Tiba, 54th Ganden Tiba Ngawang Chokden, sometime around 18th century, he not just reject, but he asked some of the people who are worshipping this protector in Ganden Monastery in Tibet, he asked them to take those possessions outside the Ganden Monastery's boundary. That's the fact. So there are many, not just the 5th Dalai Lama, not just the 8th Dalai Lama, not just the 13th Dalai Lama, many others, such as Pujo Ngawang Champa, such as Yungzing Yeshe Jensen, such as Tugen Chödyi Nyima, such as Ngöcho Dhammapata, they all, such as 8th Panchen Lama, Tempe Wangchuk, they all strongly reject. So that is the fact. I want to make the first point, that these protectors never been Gelug's protector or Tsongkhapa tradition's protector. Now my second point I want to make is, since beginning of this what you call the Shukden, always controversial. Its starting point is controversial because this guy called Takpa Jensen, somebody calls he was killed forcefully, somebody calls he was got some kind of illness. Anyway, he was died when he was 37 or 36 years old. That is the starting point of this spirit. That's the starting point. So why it's controversial? And in the middle, when it went to Sajja master have a great difficulty to accepting him to come. Okay, and there were many controversials during the Pabongka Rinpoche's time, as our chair briefly touched on what had happened in the eastern Tibet. So many unhappiness or cause. Just name of this spirit. And now we are here. Name of this spirit, 3 monks were killed in Dharamsala. Not long time ago, just a few years ago, in a cold blood, killed 3 monks. Many people are beaten out of the name of this protector. So it is not healthy protector. Somebody claim it is some kind of very amazing, healthy. It is not. Very controversial, and culturally, socially, religiously cause so much divisive. So, and actually, himself, when he went to Sajja to ask, take me to as your protector, this Sajja master, called in his vision, clear vision, Sajja master said, who are you? And this spirit said, I am the divisive spirit from Ganden. That's what he said. And this is well documented in Sajja masters, if you want to read. And that's the third point I want to make. Now, briefly, my next point is this. This so-called ISC, International Shungden Community, who is behind that? It is clearly, it seems for me, NKT, New Kadamba tradition, is behind all these movements. They started called Western Buddhist, Western Shukden Society, sometime in 1996 or 7, then called Shukden Support Society or something like that, as something I can't remember clearly. Then also now they use this term, ISC. All, if you look at people who are there demonstrating, I would say quite sure, if not 90%, 80% are from NKT. And what the earlier speaker said, we want to say that, sorry, yeah.
I'm going to have to ask you to take a seat.
That's fine. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, our next speaker is Carol McGuire.
Hello, thank you for asking me to speak. I'm speaking here as an NKT survivor. I was in the NKT for 12 years practicing Shugden. I was ordained for 7 and I left in 2006. So I will just speak, these are my personal views as a survivor. So I will speak about what I think Shugden practice is in the Nyukadampa tradition, in the NKT. I believe that the NKT is a closed system that needs to silence those who could interfere with its claimed authority. I will argue that the NKT uses Shugden to do this. Shugden practice in the NKT doesn't look like and isn't used in the same way as Shugden protector practice in traditional Tibetan Buddhism. Shugden is used by the NKT as a psychological technique to silence and control the most committed insiders using meditation, and secondly, to silence critical outsiders. For example, using Shugden to demonstrate against the so-called human rights abuses of the Dalai Lama. These demonstrations also, importantly, have kept insiders from asking awkward questions about issues back home in the NKT, such as the sexual misconduct of senior teachers in the past. The NKT fiercely protects its own renown or reputation in the West. NKT students have reluctance and even fear of speaking out about possible abuses within the NKT for fear of the consequences, such as criminal arrest, being sued for libel, or social exclusion. There are enough documented cases of the NKT making legal threats against speaking to understand this is valid fear. But Shugden isn't often mentioned in complaints by NKT survivors. They usually complain about issues of control leading to a lack of kindness. But Shugden practice is the essential practice of the NKT. Praises, offerings and requests to Shugden are made every day in every NKT centre all over the world. To be an NKT centre, you have to do these prayers. And every qualified, pure NKT Dharma teacher is supposed to practice the NKT Shugden meditations before giving any teachings. As Shugden practice is the essence of the NKT and critics of the NKT need to be silenced, then if the Dalai Lama criticises Shugden, we have to conclude that the Dalai Lama must be silenced too. But the Dalai Lama isn't criticising the NKT, he's only criticising Shugden practice. The murmur of the bad reputation of the NKT isn't coming from the Dalai Lama. That's mostly coming from ex-NKT members like myself, who believe what we practiced in the NKT caused us harm, and once we've seen how Dharma is taught elsewhere. And there are no restrictions on Shugden practice in the UK, so to justify silencing the Dalai Lama, you have to believe he must be harming Tibetans, and you need to find evidence, and try and create a campaign where most people say there is no reason for a campaign as there is very little evidence of human rights abuses. And any campaign will always pale in comparison to the problem of the Chinese invasion. So why this seemingly irrational loyalty to Shugden? I'll discuss how I feel that Shugden uses our own hope, attachment and fear to keep us tied and tongue-tied in the NKT. For a beginner, the NKT offers meditation with gardens and tea. Nothing to interfere with your normal life. The NKT also brands a fast path to enlightenment, a modern Buddhism that is nothing like that boring Tibetan stuff. To have the confidence to get enlightened, you need merit. So you live in and pay rent at a centre and help to run it and work for the Guru by promoting this pure Dharma which is Sankapa. Teaching gives you merit for a faster path. If you have merit to be authorised to teach, that's when you get hooked, as I did, by my new hope for quick results into the trio of NKT study, being a teacher and Shugden meditations. You accumulate merit even faster if you ordain, but you're told if you disrobe, you won't get enlightened. The NKT needs teachers. It has to produce them very quickly as teachers leave and new centres are opening. Kelsang Gyatso is the reclusive Tibetan monk who created the NKT system. You may only teach using Kelsang Gyatso's books. You study so that you memorise Kelsang Gyatso's books. Heart Jewel is the basic Shugden practice that Kelsang Gyatso created. It's the NKT's Shugden practice. That's where you're told to talk to the Guru. If you have any questions your NKT teachers can't ask, you can't ask Kelsang Gyatso in person. And if you have any other problems, you're told to do more Heart Jewel. Shugden will help you with it all. It's the most confusing meditation practice I have ever done. Looking at the basic Sanana of Heart Jewel, the first half is Jason Karpa Guru Yoga. The second part of Heart Jewels is offerings and requests made to Shugden, an outer practice of Shugden that's very similar to the Gelug Palden Lama Protector Tea offering. In this second part, you request knowledge, protection, compassion and power from Guru as Shugden, and meditate on downloading the confidence and power to teach or for success in your activities. Shugden is almost everything. Sutra, Tantra, Vajradhara, Buddha Shakyamuni, Manjushri, Jason Karpa, and above all, Kelsang Gyatso appears as Shugden, and you take this Shugden with you when you come out of meditation. I quote 3 benefits of doing this meditation from Kelsang Gyatso's commentary to Heart Jewel. By putting your trust in Shugden, your practice will naturally become pure, you will have a powerful ally, and you will always make the right decisions. Naturally become pure is what I felt holding the Guru, the Shugden Guru, in my heart. Having a powerful ally is what I felt when I taught. I could teach the perfect Dharma. You always make the right decisions. After teaching, I often felt as if I was protected from making any mistakes, but only if I stayed on the NKT path. Purity, power, and infallibility. In time, this practice led me to feel, and other teachers around me, that not only was the Guru infallible and could make no mistakes, but that I myself was also, without any fault in any decision I made, completely pure and powerful too, and not only during teachings, every day, with everything I did. With my Guru's blessings, I can accomplish anything. This feeling is blissful to gorge yourself with and addictive. You aren't ordinary anymore. You're extraordinary and special on this unmistaken path. So you have to protect this absent Guru, which is this power you now possess. You have to protect his good renown and his pure lineage. So you go to the demos and join in the defamation campaign, as I did from a distance. Because without Shugden, you think there will be no lineage in the teachings. I started to act as if I would do almost anything to protect my access to that feeling of power and control. What else could it be but the power of the lineage? But isn't this twisting of the concept of the purity of the Dharma into our own purity, power, and unmistaken actions as NKT teachers exactly the Shugden of distorted aspiration that causes His Holiness the Dalai Lama's concern, and the real unvoiced harm the NKT system creates? As a perfect NKT teacher, you feel no sense of personal responsibility for the harm your actions could create. While in the NKT, I increasingly saw this system as a hope I was holding up, and feeling that doctrine of purity, infallibility, and power in my teachers led to my conflicts with them. Good teachers I have met since show you what to look for in your own mind, as they know it in their own minds already. It's not about control. Is the NKT trying to blame His Holiness the Dalai Lama for its own problems in maintaining authority? But surely by trying to silence His Holiness, NKT students are also silencing their own inner critics or intuition, their own capacity to see what might have gone wrong. That's why we as survivors feel so confused when we leave the NKT. As long as Shugden practice feels so good, and Kelsang Gyatso is conceptually confused with Shugden, then NKT followers will remain deeply attached to the Shugden Guru, fearful of stopping the practice without breaking Samaya and going to hell, and fiercely protective of what appears to them to be perfect as it makes them feel perfect. You can't see this while you're in it, but I see the Shugden, NKT and Kelsang Gyatso system as only seeking to maintain itself, not a lineage. I think I can seriously state that in the NKT you become not a practitioner, but a Shugden follower. You may start out wanting to be a better person, wanting to make the world a better place, but you have very little idea of what you are missing out on and the price you will pay for your loyalty if you walk in that door wanting Dharma. That is the sadness. Thank you very much.
I'll give you 5 minutes, but I'm not going to give you a minute.
Okay, that's fine. Oh yeah. So I want to make a few points here. The first, His Holiness Dalai Lama never banned practicing this controversial Dharma protector. he strongly encouraged people not to practice, particularly people who want to come to his teachings. That's what how he stands. That's his position. Quite often they use ban. That's their want to people believe Dalai Lama bans. Never. And particularly the Kelsang, he quoted few saying, oh, look at the Dalai Lama's website. Actual quotation makes from Tibetan Youth Conference, Youth Organization's statement, not the Dalai Lama's statements. He quoted twice, saying, oh, Dalai Lama's. Actual quotation, he said, comes from Tibetan Youth Congress. And that is the fact. Quite often, he is the person, Kelsang, he presents this called ISC news agent. I'll give you an example, just a small example, how he distorts the facts. In just July, I think that July 14, I think that's the case. Sorry, my notes are a little bit distorted. Yeah, July, the 19th of July, he presented this, I think the 10 or 15 minutes program in that ISC news. What he said, Dalai Lama claims his teacher, Trijang Rinpoche, Trijang Dorje Chang, encouraged him to abandon practicing Dorje Shugden. That's what he said. Dalai Lama never ever said Dalai Lama encouraged his tutor, Trijang Rinpoche, encouraged him to abandon. That's not the case. But in fact, what he is doing, he presents that, but also at the same time he shows as evidence is this, what His Holiness Dalai Lama's website said. That's what he showed in the screen. His Holiness Dalai Lama renounced practice in 1975 after discovering the profound historical, social, and religious problems associated with it. He did so with the full knowledge and support of his junior tutor. So what Kelsang did, support, that word, English word support, he twisted into saying encourage. These two words are totally different meaning. What His Holiness Dalai Lama is saying, after his long-term observation on this issue, historically in many different ways, he reached the decision he's not going to worship this spirit anymore. Therefore, he consulted his senior tutor as well as his junior tutor, his Trijang Rinpoche. That moment, Trijang Rinpoche supported, not encourage. That's a distortion. There are many other that kind of distortions. As one of the other previous speakers said, oh yes, they banned it and show some kind of dramatic picture. They never show those 3 monks killed in Dharamsala. Must show those two, get a good balance. Must show the facts. It's much better than distortion. Then somebody, you talk about international amnesty. International amnesty's position on allegation abuse against worships of Tibetan deity Dorje Shugden, June 1998. Now the International Amnesty said this. None of the material International Amnesty International has received contains evidence of abuses which fall within the Amnesty International mandate for actions such as grave violations of fundamental human rights. That is Amnesty International's reports, June 1998. That's the fact. Now, I want to say just a few words. Somebody said, why they didn't quote those murderers? Of course, those out of the local Indian police, they identified 4. Sorry, they all escaped to in China. China protecting them. That's how they kind of
Okay, I have a few different things to say. The first, I have a question for the NKT people here. The present Karmapa engaged in many prayers for the death of the regent who brought in the other Karmapa. Recently he died, and there was a lot of dispute about what happened when he died, because he wanted to have burial in Nepal. But the present Karmapa still made all the burial prayers for this person who brought in the other Karmapa, right? So my question is, will the NKT also do burial prayers, whatever ritual they use, for His Holiness the Dalai Lama when he dies? Because in the Tibetan tradition, even with your other people, you do it. So that's just a question, okay? My next, you can answer it.
No. We don't
Later.
want anyone speaking from the
No, but later. No, you have another slot. The other is that Kelsang Gyatso had to be non-traditional because he was expelled from Sera Mey Monastery unanimously in 1996. So he has had to create his own systems because he can't do the orthodox. He doesn't have 5 fully ordained monks to have a traditional ordination. He has to create his own. So the system has developed step by step from there to become something quite different. The last thing is that, well, two more things very quickly. One is that we've created a Facebook group. Now, Facebook is fascinating because you can get contact with communities that are very different from say, in real life. So we're collecting information from Tibetans, from people on the ground in the monasteries. The other side have many websites already. The websites, the group we have on Facebook is called Talk About Shugden, and we're making lots of documents. We're having original documents from their website so you can read them. We're having all different information that we're collecting together. So from the Tibetan communities, we will please send in your side of the story as well, because that story isn't heard very much by us at all. And we've got people who can translate things. Sometimes it's a bit slow, but we do have translations. So please Talk About Shugden on Facebook. The other one is... oh yes, on that Facebook group, we're answering the videos. One by one, we're going through the NKT ISC videos and having a conversation about them. So things like what Geshe Tashi was saying now is the continuity of that. The last thing is a bit of fun, really. I was quite astonished when I went outside the NKT and started looking around at protector practices. And something that was really astonishing for me was how different the Shugden practice in the NKT was from protector practice elsewhere. And there was a lovely quote that one top teacher, a Tibetan teacher, said, "Oh, no, that Shugden, Dolgyel is, this friend I had who was a practitioner, he used to order Shugden around like a servant." And the idea, instead of being that kind of, it's quite difficult to explain Dolgyel in the NKT, but you are Shugden, Shugden goes through you and you manifest when you're teaching. But this thing of ordering Shugden around, I found rather a really kind of exciting idea. Then the oracle practice, that was amazing. It used to exist in the NKT. I saw it myself in 1995 in Brighton, because Kelsang Gyatso's uncle was a Shugden oracle. But it was kind of kept a bit secret, and then when all these difficulties happened, he decided to stay in India with his students. So that separation, that's also created more problems and separation from Kelsang Gyatso, because he's had to make his own world, if you like. He's had to. And then the last one, in the Nyingma, I was talking to people about how they use protector practice, the Deva, Guru Deva Dakini. And the Deva is very interesting because on retreat, you bring up your own negativities so that you can look at them and work with them and transform them. And that's part of your retreat. Now that's also really different from how we did Shugden in NKT. That didn't exist there, and I found that idea absolutely, for a start, the idea of going on retreat, a 3-year retreat, because that also has only existed once in the NKT and it doesn't exist anymore. I would really rejoice if the NKT created a very strong retreat, proper retreats, and liaised and connected again with the Tibetan communities. That would be a vision for the future. Thank you very much.